Hello, 99 subscribers, quite a bit. I'm going to be reading 134 to 155 of One Amazing Elephant. Night. I paint most of the day with Queenie Grace, and then Henry Jack shows up as the sun is setting. Hey, he says, nice painting. Pretty cool that you two are hanging out together. I shrug and smile, as if painting with an elephant is just an ordinary everyday thing in my life. I was just hanging out at my mom's trapeze school, Henry Jack says. Your mom is working there today. I know. I rinse the brushes as Queenie Grace lumbers away. She was bragging about a painting that you did of your grandpa, Henry Jack reports. I must have heard about it 100 times today. Julie was bragging? About me? My mom was bragging about you too, Henry Jack continues, telling everybody about the painting you did of me, showing it to them. She took a picture of it with her phone camera after she hung it on the wall at our place. It made her cry when she first saw it. I'm not sure if that's good or bad, I say. My art making people cry. It's good, Henry Jack says, because your paintings are touching their hearts. It's your gift, Lily. I'm not very good at accepting compliments, and so I just keep swishing brushes in the cup, watching the water change colors. How much for this painting? Henry Jack asks. I'd like to buy it. First original by Louis Pruitt and the amazing Queenie Grace. It's free for you, I reply. It's my gift. Henry Jack is hanging the painting on his bedroom wall when his mother gets home from work. Look at the painting that Lily did with Queenie Grace, he says. Oh, how sweet, says Faith. It's beautiful. She gave it to me, Henry Jack reports. I offered to buy it. It's a gift, I say. Merry Christmas, 2 days late. Oh, Lily, says Faith, I can't thank you enough. Not only for this painting, but for the one you did yesterday of Henry Jack. Well, let's just say I've been blinking back tears ever since I saw it. I smile. Faith is studying Henry Jack's face. That sunburn doesn't look good, she says, peering at his skin. He sighs. I don't want you going outside in the sunshine for a few days, Faith says to Henry Jack. Can I go out at night? He asks. Like tonight? Yeah, but no later than 10 o'clock, Faith says. Remember, the funeral's tomorrow. My stomach lurches. I don't have to try to remember. I have to try to forget. Henry Jack and Queenie Grace and I hang together in the yard by the tree. Henry Jack and I stretched flat on our backs, staring up at the nighttime sky. Queenie Grace towers over us, as if standing guard. She's blocking the moon, but I can still see stars. So I'm really nervous for tomorrow, I say, for the funeral. Yeah, well, funerals are never exactly fun, says Henry Jack. I look at him. He's staring straight up. Even though I know funerals have a bright side, I still couldn't help but hate my brother's funeral, Henry Jack says. That's when it all became so totally final, and now I just talk to him in the stars, in the sky at night. We're both quiet for a few minutes. That's so sad, I say, finally breaking the silence. Do you really think he's up there? Where else would he be? Asks Henry Jack. We fall silent again, like paying our respects to Henry Jack's dead twin. Even Queenie Grace is breathing quieter, standing still except for her trunk, which sways back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to try to believe that's true, I say. I'm going to have faith that my grandpa is okay and that he is really up there, still with us, except in a different way. Love doesn't die, says Henry Jack. Okay, I say. This conversation is getting a little too deep for me. We both laugh. Another we're in this together moment. Nothing like talking about dead people to bond a friendship. You know what's kind of cool, I say? I'm less afraid already. Afraid of, well, everything. Well, the elephant mostly. I told you, Lily Rose, says Henry Jack. There is nothing to be afraid of, especially when it comes to Queenie Grace. Well, if you knew what I went through when I was 6, when she almost killed me, Queenie Grace would never hurt a kid. She'd never hurt anybody. That's what you think. We all have our opinions, and my opinion is that elephants are dangerous. But what about humans? They're dangerous too. Yes, I agree. They can be. Just then, there's a high yelp from somewhere nearby. Henry Jack and I both sit up quickly. Was that a kid, I ask? I don't know, Henry Jack replies. Queenie Grace looks around. She heard it too, the squeal from something little, something that's hurt. Sitting quietly in the dark, eyes like telescopes, Henry, Jack, and I both turn our heads in the direction of the sound. The yelps are coming from the fire-eating Charlie's house. Holy showman, whispers Henry Jack. He's hitting his dogs. I see it too. The sheer curtains are drawn, but the light is on, and we can see silhouettes. Fire-eating Charlie is holding each one up, dog by dog, smacking them. Bad, he shouts. You don't chew on carpet. I clench my teeth, watching mean, evil Charlie. His wife, Mary, is nowhere to be seen, and neither is mean Mike. Finally, Charlie stops smacking the dogs. And next thing you know, the front door opens. He walks out, slow onto his porch. Clunk, clunk, clunk. He's wearing spurs on his boots, Henry Jack whispers. He does that sometimes. My mom says he rode Queenie Grace wearing spurs and kicked her in his sides. He'd dig in with those sharp spurs, trying to make her move faster. Called himself the Elephant Cowboy. He did it like 3 times until your Grandpa Bill found out and put a stop to it. I despise him, I whisper. I despise that man, Charlie, with every cell in my body. Queenie Grace is shaking a little bit. Me too, Henry Jack responds. We all do. Queenie Grace remembers the spurs. I remember the spurs. I remember the sharp metal digging into my skin, fire-eating Charlie kicking. It hurt. Bill punched Charlie in the face when he caught him riding me with the spurs. Bill the giant was a gentleman, but not when it came to somebody hurting me. I can still see Bill's fist meeting Charlie's cheek. Pow! It made a nice, satisfying sound. I never felt the spurs again, but tonight, Charlie wears them again. The sound makes me shiver. It makes me shake. Funeral day. This funeral home smells like flowers, the dust from old tissues and strong perfume. There are paintings of angels in golden frames and bouquets of flowers all over the place, plus my painting of Grandpa Bill propped up on the metal stand. The room is packed, and I actually know some people. Grandma, Julia, Mike, Henry Jack, his mom, Faith, George, Mary, the bearded lady, and of course, mean, fire-eating Charlie. He's wearing the spurs again, and it sounds like a death in a Western movie when he walks on the wooden floor of the funeral home. Grandma, Truly, and I are lined up beside the casket, greeting people like this is a party. A line of 3, all related by blood. I'm trying not to look at Grandpa Bill's abandoned body. The windows are open, and you can hear birds chirping, like this is an old, ordinary morning. The birds don't know any better, and neither do the people driving by in their cars. The sky is blue, and the sun shines. The world just goes on like normal, while the little universe of its own inside the funeral home is all about time, standing still. This part of the service is the viewing. It's where people look at the body. It helps the family to accept that the person really is gone and to find closure, Grandma Violet explained to me last night. It helps the loved ones to go on. Not me. I don't feel like accepting or finding closure or going on anywhere, not without Grandpa Bill. So I just stand there beside the casket and greet people, a wet and crumpled tissue clenched in my hand. Everyone keeps raving about how tall I am, how much I look like Grandma, how much they loved Grandpa Bill, and how I was the apple of his eye. Sometimes over a stranger's shoulder, I catch a glimpse of Henry Jack, sitting in on one of the chairs. Every time I meet his eye, he tries to smile and he gives a little nod, like saying, "It's all right. Go on. You're doing fine. Breathe. You'll be okay." Seeing Henry Jack's face is keeping me sane. It's time for the service, and pictures of Grandpa Bill are projected on the screen. Grandma sits in a folding chair on one side of me. Henry Jack's on the other. Julia hides somewhere in the very back. I can hear her hacking and the sound of Mike clearing his throat. We're in the very front, so now I can't help seeing Grandma Bill, all laid out in that casket. He looks like a creepy wax version of my grandfather, and I keep imagining what would happen if he just sat up and started talking. That would totally freak me out. I keep thinking I see his heart beating, I whisper to Henry Jack, like something is moving on the side of his neck. A trick of the eyes, Henry Jack whispers back. It's just what you wish was happening. I'm wearing the jeweled pink flip-flops and the nice flowered sundress from Julia, and Henry Jack is sporting a dark blue suit. His tie is splashed with old cartoons from the 1960s. My grandma cries really hard but quietly, shaking with trying to keep it inside. Her hair is in a braid, and she's wearing a long tie-dyed hippie skirt and a black t-shirt. She grabs my hand every now and then, which makes me have to bite my cheek. I will not cry. I will not cry. I will not cry. I will keep it inside. A funeral director, a tall, bald man in a crisp black suit, conducts the service. He includes Bible verses along with funny little stories about Grandpa, like how one time he tried to run a marathon but had to stop. There's a song, Amazing Grace, and I can hear people blowing their noses and snorting. I guess other people try not to cry too. The song comes to an end, and the beehive hairdo lady named Catherine, who is playing the piano, gets up and clicks in little red pointy heels back to her seat. There's an awkward silence, with just the nose honking and the snorting. A horrible noise trumpets suddenly from outside. It sounds like a combination of a monster blowing his nose and the sky falling and an airplane crashing. Some people put their hands to their ears and others look at one another, all puzzled and scared. One man stands as if he's going to save the world. And then I see the source of all that racket. Queenie Grace, standing near a window behind my father's body. She's looking straight in at the casket, and she's wailing at the top of her lungs. I look at my grandmother. She seems to be in shock. Henry Jack leans forward to look at Grandma, too. Then he looks at me. I mouth the word. Wow. Grandma pulls herself up from her seat with a heavy sigh, swishing in her long skirt to the exit door. People turn around to watch. A somber silence hangs heavy in the room. Trulia gets up from the back row, mouth turned down, and she follows Grandma outside. Mike hustles out too. At least all this excitement has made some people stop crying. Queenie Grace does not lie dead. I see Bill. I see his body. My mahout, my trainer, my keeper. I see Bill the giant, my best friend, and he is dead. He does not smell like Bill. I remember dead from that other country. There was a place there, a spot where elephants went to die. We paid our respect to the bones there in that place. Sometimes we carried those bones, showing reverence. Ugh. I want to break that window and lift Bill from that box. I want to bring him back to life, to make him smile, to hear his voice. But I cannot make this happen. Maybe someone else can bring Bill back to life. Maybe I can make them listen. Maybe they will help. I scream as loudly as I can. I lift my trunk to the sky and I cry. I swing my trunk like something that can hit, like something that can hurt. I am so angry. People stare at me. I would like to break that window, but I remember the trouble with the window and the pack of peanuts. I will not cause that trouble again. Violet bursts outside. Grief erupts from her eyes, and then Trulia and Mike storm into view. Go home, Mike shouts. He points the direction of the trailer. I lower my head, shake it, and then Mike smacks me. I have never before been hit. I've been burned, and I've been spurred, but I've never been hit, not here. I do not like this. I try not to cry, but I feel it, a tear. Violet draws herself up stiff and straight. She crosses her arms and sets her face like a stone. How dare you hit her? She says to Mike. She's only expressing her feelings. You will not touch her again. You hear me? Mike's eyes grow wide. She's disrupting your husband's funeral, he hisses. She doesn't belong here. She belongs here as much as any one of us who loved Bill, Violet shouts. If there's anyone who doesn't belong, it's you. Mom, says Trulia. Calm down. People can hear. Violet rolls her eyes. I raise my trunk into the sky, and I let out a loud cry. I bellow. I shout to the sky about everything that makes me feel so alone. I shout to the sky, but there is no answer. The sound of an elephant with a broken heart. I see it through the window. Mike hits Queenie Grace. I flinch when Mike's hand meets elephant skin. Grandma keeps her arms crossed as if trying to hold her heart inside. I sit straight up in shock and worry, and so does Henry Jack. Queenie Grace bellows. Grandma stands up straight and yells at Mike. Trulia yells at Grandma. The people in the funeral home get all awkward and uncomfortable, shuffling and shifting in their seats. The funeral home man closes the lid of the casket. A tear slips from my eye, and Henry Jack pats my back. That makes it worse, and more runaway tears escape. I will never again see that face. I bite my cheek. I will not cry. Not again. I won't. Nope. I'll keep it inside. Keep it inside where it belongs. We shamble outside in a line. Some people cry, others hug. I'm sorry, people say to Grandma and me. I feel as if so many people care about me, about Grandma Violet, about Grandpa Bill. If sorry could bring my grandpa back to life, he'd be standing here smiling. We go through the parking lot to where the men in suits have placed little white flags of surrender on the cards that are going to the cemetery. Julia's car has a flag, and we all pile in. Julia drives. Her eyes are red and hard in the rearview mirror. Nobody talks, and there's just the sound of wheels on the road, the turn signal, the squeak of the brakes. Queenie Grace follows behind the line of slow-moving cars. She trudges along as if she's a vehicle, too, part of this sad car parade. She follows us all the way to the Restful Souls Cemetery, and then she waits outside the curved iron gates. We park outside of the graveyard. Everybody gets out of their cars, including us. It starts to rain, tiny droplets, but the sun still shines. A few people pop open umbrellas. The casket is brought out of the hearse. Men with respectful expressions carry the coffin and place it carefully under a green tent. There's talking, prayers, flowers, bowed heads, tissues. Grandma clutches her hands into fists. And then it's all over. He's in the ground, forever and ever. Grandpa Bill is gone. We are all leaving the cemetery just as Queenie Grace is going in. She plods determinedly through the gates and straight over to the open hole of earth that holds her best friend in a blue box. She lowers herself slowly to the ground, huge body trembling. Queenie Grace just lies on the cool, damp ground, sprawled over that open rectangle shape in the earth. Queenie Grace wants Bill. Bill! I refuse to move. Oh, how I need my Mahout. Amazing Grace. Nobody can make the elephant move from the grave, not even Henry Jack. They are trying all kinds of things, but nothing works. Queenie Grace just lies there over the grave. Geez, says Henry Jack, she always listens to me. She's definitely not herself. That's what I've been saying, Grandma says. Grief changes you. What are we going to do? Julia asks. How will we get her out of here? And then I remember Grandpa Bill's song, the one that always made Queenie Grace follow. I whistle, Amazing Grace, just like I remember Grandpa doing the last time in West Virginia. Queenie Grace looks at me, and then she slowly heaves herself up to standing. I keep whistling. I start to walk, and she follows me. She follows me all the way out of the cemetery onto the road. I just keep walking, never looking back, hearing the weight of Queenie Grace behind me. When I get to the car, I do Grandpa's tongue click sound for stop. And she listens. Queenie Grace listens to me, and she stops right behind the little green car. Lily, whispers Grandma Violet, you are just like your grandpa. Why, I think she listens to you almost as well as she listened to Bill. You have the magic touch. We all get in the car. Julia drives again, her eyes checking the rearview mirror for the elephant. She's still following the car. Queenie Grace follows the car all the way home. Queenie Grace knows Bill's song. I know Bill's song. That is something I will never forget. And the girl Lily whistles it just right. Just like Bill.